Hey guys, I'm Layla. Welcome to Raid Lore Stories. Today we're going to be reading the Raid Shadow Legends lore story for Bolint Freewalker, brand new legendary HP skinwalker that was added to the game. And as you are noticing, he does have a ring of fire on his feet because he is going to be the skinwalker faction unity champion, right? He's basically going to be the warlord for the skinwalkers. And he does have a lore story, which I haven't read yet, so we're going to read it together. The free city of Onenberg was a densely populated trade entrepot near to an unusually accessible pass into the Red Spike Mountains. Cramped conditions and numerous pest animals resulted in a large skinwalker population and, owing to proximity and cultural exchange with the Freedom of Frostheim to the north, it was more tolerant of them than any other free city. Onenberg was one of very few free cities to maintain neutrality during the War of Karok, albeit a wary and tedious one, owing to its importance as a center of commerce. Provisioners from Karok were disgusted seeing skinwalkers going about the city freely, however. One of them was Bolint, who was angered by their stares and insults. He had spent years working for a human scrapmonger, Drof, both before and after his transformation. The man had always been kind to him, and in turn, Bolint was steadfastly loyal. After the war, discrimination against skinwalkers escalated and developed into the Red Crusade, and Onenberg became a haven for the dispossessed from across Karok. When Sacred Order fanatics came, compelling the clean to purge their skinwalker neighbors, the zealots were soundly repulsed by the city's inhabitants, including Bolint and Dralf, who organized several marches. The Order declared Onenberg a stronghold of darkness, fit only to be annihilated. It raised a huge army and laid siege to the city. And Onenberg stores were prepared, firefighting crews assembled, and barricades erected in the streets. Bolint and Dralf once again rallied many citizens against the Sacred Order, this time with calls to take up arms against those who would destroy their city. Weeks passed. They were punctuated with artillery bombardments, probing attacks, and arrow exchanges. Bolint, wielding an enormous great hammer, crafted by Drof, made heavier still with scrap and chains, sallied forth with small groups of warriors to sabotage siege engines, snatch prisoners, and kill officers. The hammer of Onenberg was soon feared by crusaders and revered by his comrades. The Sacred Order's own attacks were relentless and savage. Onenberg's hospitals were swiftly overwhelmed, Bolint, returning from every clash caked in gore, asked Drof to clamp his wounds closed with iron staples and stitches, rather than compete for the attention of the healers. His fellow skinwalkers were amazed by his tenacity and selflessness and rallied to him. They helped Bolint throw down the attackers' ladders, topple buildings to block streets, and flush out parties of Sacred Order infiltrators. Alas for the defenders, the sheer weight of the Order's numbers proved too great. Bolint was forced to fight rearguard action after rearguard action, each time being battered and broken, escorting civilians as they were evacuated and launching counterattacks to rescue surrounded citizens and militia. The Order was winning, securing more and more of the city. Bolint and Drof always fought together, but during the defense of a makeshift hospital, word came that 100 citizens had been cut off by Order fanatics. Drof urged Bolint to help them, saying he would hold the line and wait for his comrade. When Bolint returned, he found Onenberg defenders in full retreat. He pushed through the fleeing mass, desperately searching for Drof. He found his old friend dead, lying in the rubble with axe wounds across his shoulders and chest. Bolint was driven into a bloody frenzy and saw him reduce 24 crusaders to paste. Despite his rage, he could not turn the tide. He fell back, Drof's lifeless body in his exhausted arms. Days later, Bolint and the Resistance's last holdouts made their final stand in Onenberg's town square. One by one, they were cut down by crusaders who called them all filth, vermin, monsters, and traitors. As the zealots swarmed Bolint, dead all around them, there was a flash of golden light. Many present later swore they saw a glimpse of the Arbiter. The Sacred Order declared an omen of blessing. In truth, the Arbiter had saved Bolint within a shard. Bolint had been ready to die. He was shattered, aghast, plagued with guilt. It took the Arbiter years of careful consolation and building and trust to persuade him to embrace life in her service. She taught him of Sirat's evil and introduced him to her wisest and most noble servants, including Ramantu Drakesblood. He was glad to have persevered when the Third Great War broke out and he was released from his shard. Not only did he slay many of Sirat's minions, but with the Gallan War raging simultaneously, he aided war-weary Skinwalker veterans fighting against his old foes, the Sacred Order. It was this that turned him against the Arbiter for good. The Order's genocidal maniac was as strong as ever been. She had done nothing to stop him. He would no longer obey the Arbiter. He proclaimed himself the Freewalker. Wow, guys, that story is actually really, really, really sad. So there's a couple themes I see that kind of seem to consistently kind of keep up, right? Is about how a lot of times the Sacred Order, like it seems like they're these like righteous zealots that basically try to like take down anybody who doesn't have the same belief as them, right? Like we kind of see that happening consistently. Like we see here that, you know, the Sacred Order butchered his longtime friend here, right? And even though the Arbiter tried basically to bring Bolint back and try to win him over, just with all the battling and everything that he's seen, he's still just, he's not very trusting. And so you kind of see these themes very like recurring, especially when they come to these different alliances that we have, right? So I do like how they talk about how the Arbiter introduced him to Ramanatu, because we do have actually here like the Gallan Pact, right? It would make sense that, you know, Ramanatu is he's the prince of the dragons, right? He's in the lizard men, and that we have Bolint over here in the Skinwalkers, and they're the same kind of alliance. So it makes sense that, you know, in some ways we trust Ramanatu that they're going to team up. And also with the story, just with how much perseverance he had and how much he cared for his people, I guess we can see how he becomes like this faction warlord for the Skinwalkers, right? So guys, I'd love to know what you think of this lore story. Drop me a comment down below for, you know, what do you think about the story for Bolint Freewalker? And guys, thanks for watching.